So, so this is part two. Part two is actually kind of part one in reverse. Part one didn't intend to be that. It was really just on the fly from that spontaneous reaction. Well, not really spontaneous, but immediate reaction. Two, what I confidently identified as very advanced pro-war fascist propaganda on a sophisticated level that has the capacity to effectively draw in multitudes of people. In the case of the Catholic priest who gave a speech that, if you listen to it the way I listen to it, is so intellectually diabolical and psychologically sophisticated that it's gut-wrenchingly disgusting. Because from understanding the role, and you don't even need to dig that deep, because there's a facade. Understanding the role throughout history in the constant massacres, and then getting an in-depth insight into the apparatuses that were created in order to perform known, publicly aware, or not necessarily publicly, but stuff like essentially like the role in the conquest. Of course, it goes. That's what I mean. Is it goes with the royalty. That's kind of where the facade starts. So, but just prior to coming across, and I got to this priest from a Huey P. Long little delve into his speeches. And so I saw this on Is This Democracy? And I saw it was a Catholic priest. So I clicked on that one. And the speech starts off good. I like it. But as I get to really realize, I'm doing other stuff. I'm not watching the screen. It's a slideshow. And I realize they show a picture of him speaking at a church, a Catholic church. And it looks like long, big, and all the windows. And that first caught my attention, like, wow, this guy, and he starts talking about 95% of this country is anti-war. And his numbers, I'm digging them. From what I've studied and what I understand, I do know that at that time, the anti-war American sentiment was huge. And it took, well, but I think I'm about to show you, it took a massive amount of economic, industrial, military, political, and religious force in order to snap that. Not to say that it was pure or anything, no, hell no. But just for the development of war, towards the development of war, the energy that went into essentially consolidating a NATO alliance through the same way that you unified the North and the South, a civil war. So this is how you do stuff like that. The birth of modern Mexico. So this is a function of empire. Now, as I ponder this more, and the role again, it is about war. And what it is inside of war, there's a consciousness. There's a consciousness. The man holding the injured child is the enemy, the aggressor, the attacker, the invader, the alien, the Illuminati, the oppressor, whatever, okay? 1973. 1973. This is propaganda, active current day propaganda. 2013. This is Afghanistan. Oh shit, that might even be. No, yeah, that's Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, carried out above a Navy hospital. Oh, Iraqi child. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's even worse. In the very least, they had in Iraq. I don't know. Sorry, in the Taliban for a little bit in Afghanistan. This guy's holding an Iraqi baby. So there's a consciousness that lives in war, but at the same time, it's just context. It's what's at stake. And this has something to do with war mongering. And certain individuals throughout time occasionally get caught warmongering, which implies, or is meant to imply, that therefore the ones that got caught are the only ones so guilty. It doesn't go on to say that the ones that are not in the book are just more sophisticated at doing the same thing than these particular individuals who didn't demonstrate as much discretion, but still experience, as the book points out. This book points out real quick too. According to his church's teachings, the popes, whichever corrupt popes, the spiritual capacity of each remained unaffected by his temporal activities, the waters of divine grace continuing to pass through him unaffected by the possible foulness of the conduit. So even the ones that get caught, it doesn't matter that they get caught. So the ones that don't get caught, it doesn't matter. So, but what I ended up realizing, what echoed in my head, is that I never realized this for World War II, is because this guy is talking this term international. And I know I can easily be considered anti-Semitical, Jew-hating, Israel-hating. That's fine. But, and I say basically the same shit. I can be accused of the same shit. But, so maybe it takes one to know one. So you have to accept my terms on either one of two things. It takes one to know one, or I guess you'd have to just believe them. Oh well. So I'll just say it takes one to know one. So I'm in the same boat as them. As such, when he's using the term internationalist, he's actually saying Jew the way nigger is for black. At that time, it was the same extent. Again, Henry Ford's book, The International Jew. This is under the premise from the Anglo-Saxon European lineage that shit. Dang. I actually have to pause this. Go back, sorry. Okay, that there was a Judaic empire identical in imperial structure, apparatus, social order as Imperial Rome, but just Judaic, and nowhere near the Middle East, but actually in the region that is now known as Eastern Europe. So essentially, this is why, to this, and it's kind of weird because this is kind of the way that why they say, even like you could do this. if you look at the real size of Africa on Google and you pick up these maps, they'll show you the countries that fit into there. Even in that, they have America, China, Japan, India, and they might put the UK. I think they have the UK, or they say Western Europe, and then they'll have Eastern Europe. There might even be something else too. But so there, and this is the whole thing with NATO and countries getting in, like the Ukraine and stuff like that, and Serbia, and this distinction, and so in that region, in this internationalist language, that was an opposing imperial force that was broke, and the people scattered to the wind again, because this is what Roman Imperial Fascism does to this particular group of people. I don't know if I'm going to discover here why, but it is a progressive, organic development, as in a tradition, and the tradition in and of itself is to carry it on. That's why you see the repetition, and that's why you see the skillfulness of secrecy that includes the capacity of, during World War II, for literally the Vatican to be given what is now its current status as a nation state, which provides it the only legal premise that it's hiding behind to shelter the 6,100 already identified erect dick inside a boy. Oh no, he only touched me, or whatever. Altar boy. Okay? 6,100 separate individual identified with multiple victims along their belt, or however they check their shit off. Who knows, maybe they keep a tally. Maybe it's a bead thing that they have. But they definitely hold it sacred because the effort that they're willing to do to protect it. But so this current legal status that they have is directly contributed by Mussolini's conquest of Italy. Important to note, what happened? Why was it Mussolini that did it? Well, because the Vatican actually was ruling Italy not too long prior to Mussolini coming into power. But because they were on the verge of, they were beyond the verge, beyond the edge of pure, mad, brute insanity, in some cases, in one particular situation of their overall network of this fucking craziness, is Jewish ghettos in Italy. I don't know if in Rome, maybe, I guess in Rome, but in Italy in general. I think it was all, I don't know. I know at least Rome. So, as such, they also did decree laws that, Jews couldn't collect money from Christians, Christians couldn't work for Jews, or Jews couldn't employ Christians, and so forth, like this. And, but that would have been a situation for a long time. I don't know how long it was, but it was so bad. The trip out on this shit, anti-Semites, this is crazy shit. The people, maybe it wasn't the whole reason, okay, because it was a network, so maybe I'm being a little, but I would like to think, I'm sure the Italian people wouldn't mind the association that inside their hearts, their human hearts, saw their brethren suffering, and through the barrier, the veil of even the religious influence of authoritarian domination, they broke, at least for a second, long enough, they came through. This is the human spirit. They came through that fascist element, and they fucking tore them goddamn walls down. And they stripped Italy away from the Vatican and reduced it down to a little city within it. And therefore, the rise of Mussolini, who was merely just a guy in a costume, but was them. He was a mafioso, He was a, I might get in trouble for this one. He was, oh, this was actually the only time I feel dangerous. The CIA, I'm not scared of the mafia. I'm not fucking around. But, sorry guys, I'm just trying to tell it how it is. I know you don't want me to. But it's not really snitching because no one ever told me. And I never really figured it out. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. But Mussolini was essentially a mafia element of the whole thing that was just able to literally put on a costume. And I don't mean like every military is a mafia. They're a criminal type organization. There's similarities. But as far as I'm talking about traditional concept of mafia, this is what Mussolini was. And Mussolini's bond through the mafiosos, La Cosa Nostra's ties to the Vatican is what motivated him when established in power, same way that Hitler rose to power, backed by a lot of money and just not shutting the fuck up. I'm poor, so you don't have to worry about me. All you have to do is just not watch. Just go back to the normal world. Just go back to Easter, Christmas, woohoo, your birthday. The good old days. So okay, I think I gotta pause it again. Sorry, this is important. Okay, so likewise, because it's an element of the mafia, and the mafia is directly connected to the Vatican, and the Vatican irrefutably, regardless of the rest of my theories about everybody else, America and the relationship with the crown and Australia and all that kind of stuff like that, it is an irrefutable fact that the Holy Roman Catholic Church is, in the very least, the direct descendant, whether it be son or daughter, of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay? The transition being, that's the other part of this, the transition being Constantine. So, and then on that note, today was amazing. So, okay, Catholic Church, Mafia, okay. And because they're Rome, again, there's an element in there, the height, okay, most of us get 5th grade education, and if we get a higher education, actually the higher you get in education, the more repetition you're getting, so you get less education. And that's why innovation is actually so simple. Like structured household, like the fact that I live in a ghetto, that there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of ghettos, and within them there's millions of ghetto structures. So, okay. So the Anglo, that's what I gotta get back to. Now, this is deep because, again, this goes with the Anglo-Saxons. They do go with the Aryan. The Aryans do go into India. They're axe people. So this is ancient, traditional, passed down shit. And the Aryans developed into essentially the Roman Empire. And it is now the Holy Roman Catholic Church. So as such, I draw a connection between them and England. I guess nobody does. But here, okay, I'm going to keep going here. So, here's the Catholic Church. Oh, the Catholic Church gets stateship. So Mussolini signs over the Vatican as, this is the solution, because they realize, oh, we can't trust the Italian people anymore. So what do? They get a guy in power who can sign over, okay, undemocratically, because it's fascism. See how it works? And when he loses power, that doesn't revoke the shit that he gave them. Just like the fact that we can actually read the documented amount of silver by shipment and donations and what so forth, or gifts or charity given, at least in the very least to the Catholic Church, that they won't tell obviously about the shit that they themselves hoarded, but in the very least there are some public records of tons and tons of silver being transferred to the Catholic Church. It's insinuated that it's through foreign, as in non-Vatican related, just good gestures because they just happen to like them, or because of religious connotation, but nothing imperial like that. No. But there's enough records for the Vatican to be legally, and Spain, in the very least, for Zacatecas and for Bolivia, whatever that mountain is called. There's enough. They know what the records. So there's enough evidence for them to be liable for the weight of silver in today's terms. But the reason they're not is because of this. So these are flashcards from Black's Law Dictionary, for the most part. So I've been studying these for a while, and I just made a breakthrough. Because the warmongering priest, this is what he taught me. He taught me how sophisticated this shit is. Because it was terrifying what he was saying. And everything he said turned out, but everybody did it exactly the way he said it, but with smiling faces. This is the scale of sophistication. And again, some of the outcomes are still lasting today in what is considered pop culture. And one of the most famous, and it's like this. Well, it can mean whatever you want it to mean. Sure, whatever you say. But one of the most famous icons from this, what he was exposing as a fascist plot, what it looked like he was exposing as a fascist plot, unfolded without a hitch. And no need for any of the derisive or aggressive forces, because in the end, he and his aligned forces were supportive of the whole thing that they were initially exposing, and left it at that. So I do have to point out that it was during World War II, and this guy is over here with millions. He's getting millions of letters. It was like it was a coke clot. It was crazy. You gotta look at this thing. Millions of Americans were just writing letters to him, thinking that he was the anti-war movement. Meanwhile, in the Catholic Church is actually helping in one real sense, and probably planning in the very least, the Nazis plot out the concentration camp network, including the rail system, that would go on to be untouched by the American bombers, who, again, millions and millions of Americans were sending letters to this guy. They weren't saying, let's go save the Jews, like the Mexicans were. Sorry, Israel, hate to break it to you, who went and fought, like my grandfather. That's like the Charlie Chaplin thing. That's why Mexicans went to go fight. No. The Catholic didn't go there to save the internationalists. So the Vatican was working close with Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco in Spain. And other countries too, still to this day. And what they're doing in Africa too, the whole thing with the AIDS epidemic. So again, now the warmongering goes on to, so what is this guy doing here? So the way that this works is, what I've learned about the law in this context is, just like this is a code, of an imperial code to tell you about processes of conquest and human oppression. So down to the very structure, the disobedient prophet. First Kings chapter 13. And behold, there came a man of God out of Judah by the word of the Lord unto Bethel, and Jeroboam stood by the altar to burn incense. And he cried against the altar in the word of the Lord, and said, O altar, altar, thus saith the Lord, behold, a child shall be born unto the house of David, Josiah by name, and upon thee shall he offer the priests of the high places that burn incense upon thee, and men's bones shall be burnt upon thee. And he gave a sign the same day, saying, This is the sign which the Lord hath spoken. Behold, the altar shall not rent, and the ashes that are upon it shall be poured out. And it came to pass that when King Jeroboam heard the saying of the man of God, which had cried against the altar of Bethel, that Beth is house and El is God, so the house of God, that he put forth his hand from the altar, saying, Lord, lay on him. And his hand, which he had put forth against him, dried up, so that he could not pull it again to himself. The altar also was rent, and the ashes poured out from the altar, according to the sign which the man of God had given by the word of the Lord. And the king answered and said unto the man of God, Entreat now the face of thy Lord thy God, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored me again. And the man of God besought the Lord, and the king's hand was restored him again, and became as it was before. And the king said unto the man of God, Come home with me, and refresh thyself, and I will give thee a reward. And the man of God said unto the king, If thou wilt give me half thine house, I will not go in with thee, neither will I eat nor drink water in this place. For so was it charged me by the word of the Lord, saying, Eat no bread, nor drink water, nor turn again by the same way that thou camest. So he went another way, and returned not the way that he came to Bethel. No. It's just on the flag. So this is I don't know how that works out, but somehow this is it's a method of how of creating an experience, and inside of the experience, essentially, it's like you want to immobilize somebody in that state. Well, that's another thing with the Bar Association, and its relationship to the Catholic Church. So the laws, though, because they appear Jewish, because they come from the Bible, so it is very complex, and it's part of the force that the Catholic Church uses to masquerade itself, is the very creation, and I say this, and it's kind of brutal, is the very creation of the Jews, because I say the Catholic Church is the Roman Empire. And one of the realizations, and that I know is true, is because what these laws are all about, like sensus tolit erum, consent removes an error. A person cannot object to something he has consented to. This is the whole premise of all of Western civilization. This is Roman imperialism. This is the Catholic Church. This is the rape of the Americas. This is the rape of Africa. This is the rape of all the boys from those priests. Vani timoris justus exustatio non est. A frivolous fear is not a legal excuse. So inside of all of this, when you put it all together, basically what it's doing is it's telling you how the empire behaves. Because at the core of it, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it, but at the very core of it, what they say is that the law is primitive law, is where there's a right, there's a remedy. Okay, modern law or imperial law is when there's a right, there's a remedy, and it says in contrast to primitive law, which is where there's a remedy, there's a right. So it's telling you how empire behaves, not how necessarily to behave or what's good or bad, because empire is not subject to law. This is the fundamental thing that struggles like Jamaica struggle with, and struggles like that they're struggling with, is the Roman Empire, imperial elite forces are not subject to law. And so the Catholic popes are not subject to returning or repaying their debt. Returning the goods and repaying their debt and repaying water and giving up the lands and all, or forfeiting the priest. They're not subject to the law. Neither is the crown. So this is the whole element, and their warmongering is one of the reasons they're not subjected to it. So the more people can identify how they warmonger, the less effective it'll be. But when they want a war, like it says over here, they talk about these Japanese colonel. 1,000,000 men and 100 years. That's what a Japanese admiral said it would take to capture Tarahawa, atoll in the Pacific. So they're saying like, oh, this guy's crazy. Yeah, but to get a war going, there's no limit. Watch. And darn, I forgot. I do want to get on that's not fair, because the Jews have done more terrorism against Mexicans, who, even though they're Catholics, have only done good to the Jews. But the Pope and the Vatican, and you've done to Iran, and Iran, you guys were allies, but you've done to the Vatican nothing, and you know historically that they're your most vicious enemy. So what's going on around here, man? Who's the one that's tried to kill you throughout history? Why don't you ally with the people they're likewise trying to kill presently and through history? Stop aligning with them. I'm just saying, it's just a suggestion. It would take an identity crisis, and one way or the other, effectively, for the Catholic Church to be stopped from doing it again, it's going to cost Jews the Jewish identity. Because they're going to have to confront the members that consider themselves to be Catholic in a way that is eye-opening enough to break through the fascist imperial trance. The cost will be the repetition of history. And it doesn't stop. It's a whirlwind. It doesn't trickle down. So anyway, that didn't seem too much.